And welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben, and this is my movie review for a new Netflix original titled There's Someone Inside of Your House. It's a new slasher film. Do you like slasher films? Which is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. This is a non-spoiler review, but at the end I'm going to talk about an alternate ending that I wish it went that way, where my brain thought it was going. But for now, non-spoiler review. Let's jump in. The graduating class at Osborne High is being targeted by a masked assailant, intent in exposing the darkest secret of each victim, and only a group of misfits outsiders can stop the killings. This film is another one of those that is based on a book. It's directed by Mr. Bryce, who directed both Creep films. So if you like those, it's kind of the feeling you're going in for. Also from one part of the mind of Stranger Things and one part of the mind of James Wan from The Conjuring. And so you put those things together and you expect a decent film. You're thinking that, oh, maybe this is going to be something really interesting. And for the most part, it reflects those teenage slasher films that we used to get, like I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream. In fact, if you took both of those premises together and you kind of mash them in a bit, but make it to today, that's kind of where you're going with this film. There are parts of this film that I think really worked. For example, the cinematography, the way the film looks, the atmosphere, the way it's filmed in corridors, in those creepy places that you expect, that is really good. But it tries to occasionally do misdirection really slightly, where it goes, oh, it might be this person, and then there's like a humorous moment, or the film changes tack and you're like, oh, okay, it's definitely not that person. So where it thinks it's doing misdirection, it doesn't do that. So by the time you get to the end of the film, if you haven't guessed the killer, then I'm sorry, because it feels like it spells it out for you. Like, this is the person. You're hoping that it's not going to be that person. In fact, my brain made up an entirely new ending for this film, which I'll talk about at the end, because it was hoping that it was cleverer than the film actually is. That's not to say there aren't things to enjoy in this film, apart from the cinematography. I think the lead actors or the protagonists, they do a good job with what they've been given. It feels very tangible, like a real lived in lives. So you're just kind of thrust in the life of this small town where people start getting killed, and the gruesome and the gore, the gruesome is there, the gore is there, and it's quite in your face. It's quite brutal. It was more than I was expecting it to be. It isn't rated a 15 here in the UK. It's rated an 18, so that's for adults, or just coming out of your late teens really and going into adulthood and above. So anybody that is adult can watch this. So it gives you an idea of, even though it's a slasher teen film, which is sometimes the demographic is for youngsters, it's for people that used to be youngsters or just coming out of that age. So the gore they can really go for, the swearing they can really go for, the intensity they can go for. Problem is, it's not always as intense as you want, because sometimes the film starts going in one direction. For example, when you're following this masked killer, it kind of stops. It happens too quickly. It needs to be drawn out longer. If you follow back to the way that Scream did it, that original's opening scene I talked about recently with Chris from Movies and Munchies in our podcast, the opening scene with Drew Barrymore is epic, because it kind of broke some of the rules that we were expecting for horror films at that time. It drew it out until a moment that we're like, we know it's coming, but when is it coming? And then it hits you. This one kind of starts it, and you think it's going to draw it out, or maybe something else is going to quite happen, or but then there's a kill, or there is not even enough kills in this. It's just, it kind of gets going but never really goes anywhere, which I found quite disappointing, because the talent is there, the writing is there. I can't help but think that this was maybe a short story, because I'm wondering how much story there is actually in this. The story itself seems to be very basic. And when it comes to the background of some of the characters, we hardly get any, except for our main protagonist really is like the Sydney Bristow character, which is a little bit annoying, because you want to care about the characters that are being kicked off. And in Scream, if you go back, we didn't get much background story, but you cared more for them. There's a way in crafting a slasher film that can really work. So I feel like I'm coming down really hard on it, but there are, like, for everything that I hated about this film, well, not hate strong, disliked about this film, there were moments that I liked about it. I thought the score itself was really good, and when it was adding to the atmosphere, when we were getting those killer moments, I thought it was great. When the film goes back into the teenage angst, it wasn't really furthering the story that much. It was more like, oh, this is the teenage angst in between the killing. So for the most part, I think it's enjoyable. But if you want a really great slasher film, you can probably go find others like I Know What You Did Last Summer. Scream is up there with one of the greatest. The original Halloweens, you know, those kind of slasher films is kind of what we wanted from this film. It definitely is paying homage from the Scream film with the long knife and the mask, the way that the story kind of plays out there. Even the opening seems very reminiscent to that. Which is where I say go watch the original Scream if you haven't seen it. This is it's an okay watch. I'm going to give this 2.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5. Okay, here comes my alternate ending. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't want any spoilers, then now's your chance to kind of let me know in the comments what you thought about the film. But if you have and you're coming here for those kind of spoilers, let's jump in. The film tries to make you a little bit to guess who the killer isn't. Being that the father was obsessed with Nazi memorabilia and that kid was like white privilege, it never really got away from the fact that it was going to be him, and I always thought it was going to be him. But there is this moment in the story where we see our main protagonist, her gran is sleepwalking, and she's moving all these plates and moving all these things and doing a whole bunch. And then we see a little bit from our main protagonist who has been traumatized by PTSD for something that she did or was forced to do, as we see later on, by hazing. This awful thing that happened with one of her hazers or hazies that gets pushed into the fire by her, but not really knowing what she's doing. She's drunk. She reacted just pushing someone away from her, and then she has to live with the guilt of what she's done to this person for the rest of her life, causing major PTSD. Now I thought they set up the Gran who was sleepwalking a lot because they were going to make our main protagonist actually be the killer and sleepwalking because of PTSD, and making people that have secrets like her, that's coming to like her way of brain sorting things out. So she's started to find out who has secrets and who needs to kind of bring them to light, because she knows how much it's destroyed her in her way, her brain. So at night she would go out and kill people that are seemingly bad or have really dark, deep secrets. I thought I was going to do something like that. I thought that would have been a very interesting way to go with the story. However, that's not the case. It was pretty straightforward. Let me know your thoughts, where you were hoping the story is going to go. What did you think of that ending? Would you have enjoyed that? Thanks so much for watching this. But most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.